Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this knowledge-based webinar from the UK and Ireland Spill Association. We wouldn't be able to do these without the support of OAMPS Hazardous Industries, who provide insurance for a lot of our members, particularly involved in hazardous waste and spill response and environmental incidents. If I could ask everyone, apart from the presenters, to put their put to mute so we don't get any background noise. I can hear quite a lot at the moment. That would be much appreciated. So anybody who's not on mute, if they could mute, apart from the presenters, will then get better sound. I would say that this is being recorded, and so that we will be able to put this up on our website, and we'll be sending you a link to the recording so you can view it afterwards, or you can cascade it to other members of your teams. So basically, we have within the UK and Ireland Spill Association a Marine Working Group, and the Marine Working Group comprises of all of our responders involved in marine work, plus also the manufacturers who provide or the products which the marine responders develop and sell. And the idea of these was really a means of sharing our members' world-leading knowledge and enabling it to be found, accessed and shared, and as a result, enable knowledge to be increased. And over time, we hope that our knowledge base, which is accessible through our new website, ukeirespill.org, will become a place where those involved or interested in spill response may come to inquire, increase their knowledge, and understand what good looks like, so that they can work more safely, be compliant with the relevant legislations, and deliver a better service. And during this year, we're delivering 10 marine knowledge-based webinars. We've got 4 inland-focused webinars, which will be in the autumn of this year. And the learnings from these will be summarized within Spill Alert, which is our quarterly magazine, in which you can read case studies, read examples of best practice. Our latest issue will be out at the end of this month. And again, it is accessible from our website. So we announce these through our LinkedIn feed and on our website. And this is a summary of the webinars which we have coming up, which we have planned. Understandably, we're taking a break in August because I'm going away sailing, hopefully, and I won't be around to host it. But so those, and we will be having some other non-knowledge-based webinars. In particular, we'll have what we've been following the MV Wakashio, which has got a lot of learning has come out of it. A lot of learning is still to come out of it, and we'll be hosting a webinar which will try to bring together the lessons to be learned from this instance. And then we're also doing one on marine plastic pollution, and some of the products we're going to talk about today are relevant to its recovery, but we'll be doing a marine plastic pollution one in July. So today we're talking about marine special equipment. Now, what is marine special equipment? Well, we've called it that because really we needed a catch-all to cover the things that we haven't covered so far. So in the webinars that we've covered so far, we've done skimmers, absorbents, dispersants, we've done booms, and really, we've done those 4. And really, this is a sort of catch-all for anything that we haven't quite covered so far. And we are blessed with having a lot of knowledgeable speakers to present to you this afternoon. So we've got Kevin Bond from Elastec, who will hand over to Paul Rayner from Vicoma, who will hand over to Mark van der Zwani, and Mark will hand over to Peter Cheney from Surf Cleaner, and these are all corporate members of the association. So without further ado, I'm going to allow them to get on and tell the story and introduce these products to you. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to Kevin. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So let me just share my screen here. We'll click on this. And I should do. the slideshow here, so I'll just run through. So yeah, marine special equipment is kind of mentioned in some of the more special type of equipment that have been designed and developed over the years. We're going to be talking about the boom vane type of paravane system, the X150 skimmer system, which is a high-speed inline skimming system. And then we have the fire boom as well, which was, as many people know, was extensively used in the Gulf of Mexico oil spill in 2010. And a lot of the developments from that will be listed in the presentation there. I've got a few videos to talk through as well. Hopefully it all works through okay. Let me just get through on this one. So the boom vane, very, very useful in rivers and fast river flowing river situations, giving you the ability to pull boom into the water and to boom off a river without the use of boats. Some different sizes of boom vanes that we currently have available. So it is an advancement in the oil spill technology. It does simplify the challenges in the fast water systems. When you've got fast flowing rivers, it's very difficult and sometimes impossible to get boats into the river. That still doesn't stop the oil from getting into those hard to reach areas. So if you've got the ability to get manpower down to the shoreline, to the river, then you can utilize one of these boom vanes to get the boom in, and then also to boom off and stop the oil from going further downstream. Kind of the art of sailing and flying a kite, but utilizing the water's current. So as the water passes through the vanes, it pulls the boom out into the water, into the middle of the river. In an offshore or an environment where you're using it out in the sea, it eliminates the need for having two vessels. So you can utilize just a single vessel with the right parameters, with the right type of vessel, and the right type of conditions. Then you can utilize these systems as well. So the smaller boom vanes, mostly designed for shore-based operations, shallow waters, less than a meter deep. And then you've got the boom deployment for fast currents without using boats. It can also be utilized sort of in wider river with sweep operations as well. The half-meter boom vane, also designed again for fast-moving shallow rivers. We use it extensively on training courses we have at our workshops twice per year. The 1 meter boom vane, again, very useful with side sweep systems. There's the X150 system that we have. There's also, you have the current buster. There's other sweep systems available that these particular vanes are very useful with for single ship operations. The 1 meter boom vane is constructed vertical wings, again, utilizing the current. It's held by a single mooring line. It swings out towards the opposite shore or from the vessel and tows the boom. Very powerful, light and handy tool, enables you to be operating in waters with heavy traffic. It's got a control rudder on it, so you can bring the boom vane back to the shore or back to the vessel as you need to. So yeah, again, on the 1 meter boom vane, just a bit more detail there. You can see the rudder at the back, and then you can see the vanes in the middle there with a float on top. So the next size up, the 1.5 meter boom vane, again, proven for mostly offshore situations, towing booms and fast sweep products. 200 meters of offshore containment boom. It's easily towed in different configurations, and gives you the ability to maintain sweep operations over long periods of time. Again, you need to have the right vessel with the right equipment to be able to maneuver this boom vane into the water. Same with any offshore operations, you need to make sure you've got the right vessel at hand. We also have the larger 2 meter boom vane for the more serious offshore situations. We've also been tested in Arctic conditions, so it's really the offshore response organizations utilizing this system as well. So different size boom vanes for different operations. And again, you can see some of the size differences there, just how big the larger one can be. I'm just going to run through a short video here. Hopefully it works. Hopefully you can all hear it. This is just going through a typical deployment of a boom vane in a river. This is the 1 meter boom vane. So the guys now are just heading further upshore to put in the tow line. Mooring points can be any sturdy trees or ground anchors, whatever you're able to find in the location. You will need some assistance to get the boom vane into the water, so safety waders and life jackets whilst on the shoreline. The orange reel there is the return line for the rudder. As soon as the boom vane hits the current, you can see it operating and pulling out into the middle of the river. Typically, shallow draft booms operate best in this situation. And in this situation, it's important to work out where your catch point is going to be for the boom, and making sure that you've got enough area to put a skimmer in or whatever recovery device you're going to use. You can use a series of these systems going up and down the river as needed, depending on the spill and the spill site. So now they're just reeling in using the return rudder. So again, that's just a short video there on the boom vane. I'm going to run now into the X skimmer, which was developed at the Wendy Schmidt competition. That also utilizes the boom vane as a kind of a single ship offshore operation. So again, I'll just run through some details here. We have the launching system, so everything you need within one system: the boom, the skimmer, the boom vane, and the launching system all together. You only require one vessel for this. Just again, make sure that the vessel you're utilizing has got the right capacity in terms of craneage and deck space, complete with wireless remote control to make it safe for the operators towards the rear of the vessel. And then you can have 2 sections of inflatable boom. You can even have more sections depending on the availability, and then the boom vane to assist in the single ship operation. It can be self-contained, so you can keep it in a container for shipping. Makes it very, very transportable. You can deploy the system in about 30 minutes, depends on how many boom sections you've got and the experience of the crew. We recommend three-man team for the operation, 1 for controlling the remote, and then 2 just to make sure that everything's all connected up okay. So you get the remote control system there, and then just some more detail of the X150 skimmer. And we'll go into a bit of detail on the design of the skimmer in the video towards the end of this part. So the skimmer itself is a centerpiece. It's easily deployed using the crane on board. It can be towed up to speeds of up to 4 knots, and the system in up to Beaufort Scale 4, which, as recommended, it's usually the maximum limit for crew safety when you're out offshore. The collected oil is transferred to the towing vessel directly from the skimmer. It's got the integrated hoses there from the skimmer pump straight back on board the vessel. Just some pictures of the system in use. You can see the boom vane there at the bottom of the picture with the towing booms guiding the oil into the skimmer, and then the transfer hoses coming back on board the vessel. Just a rear view shot giving you the profile of the system. So you can operate it in stationary or advancing modes. The skimmer will draw the oil towards it. But in this particular mode, you're looking at advancing skimming systems. You can collect with this particular system up to 152 cubic meters per hour with a 95% efficiency. You can increase this depending on the pumps which are situated on board the skimmer. So with that upgrade on the pump, you can double the capacity. And again, I'll just do a short video on that system itself.
We're here at Port Fourchon here in the Gulf. This is home, this is where we started. This is how we know if we've got a successful product. If we're there and we're doing it ourselves, then we know that our clients are going to be satisfied. We're going to ship around the world. They have to open that box. That product has to work. There's not very many people that go the extra mile that we do. We have a diverse product line. They're backed up with our quality, our design, our service, our experience. We feel good about what we do because we solve the There's a global need for these products. Containment booms, controlled burn operations, a full line of skimmers to pick up all oil types, vacuum systems, incinerators. We have a very popular small line of incinerators for medical waste. We sent equipment to Africa for the Ebola breakout. We have products for all of those types of issues. We like to offer complete solutions to all types of response. All of those things are helping to keep the world clean. And to me, that's what LastTech is all about. During the Deepwater Horizon, we were burning oil offshore. There was, of course, skimmers of dispersants as used, but most of the skimmers there really didn't catch that much oil. The skimmers that we employed at the Deepwater Horizon were just not up to the task. Old skimmer technology was overrated and it underperformed. We saw a need in oil spill recovery and felt we needed to have a different type of skimmer to be able to deal with oil spills. It is kind of game changer. You're not just improving the surface area, you're actually making the channel that the oil will ultimately adhere to. It's like capillary. It's almost like a vacuum. Creating a lot of potential and then build up 32-gallon cartridge. We are the Wendy Smith Oil Spill Cleanup X Challenge, the $1 million contest to build the world's fastest skimmer. For the competition, we scaled our disc skimmer to pick up 5 times more oil than any skimming system that has ever been built. What can I say? We built the best skimmer in the world. It's like we're playing. Please congratulate our $1 million first place winner, Team Elastic American Marine. Well, now we're in a commercial version of the X skimmer. This is the 150. It has 10 discs, and we're ready to take this to the marketplace. We can use the X150 in advancing mode up to 3 knots. We can also use it in a stationary mode or near shore or harbor applications. We had the opportunity to build the perfect skimmer. I think we pulled that off. The last X150 launching system skimmer is a turnkey operation. Everything that you need to do the job is there. It's an integrated device that allows you to launch and retrieve the skimmer, the boom, and a boom vane with a single vessel. It only takes 3 people to operate the X150. One person actually running the remote, and then a couple of people to keep an eye on things. It's a very simple operation to do. When you're using our boom vane, you can operate with a single vessel tow system. This will operate the system up to 2 to 3 knots. The X150 will recover up to 660 gallons a minute, 150 cubic meters per hour, and doing light, medium, and some heavy oil recovery. I'm pleased to announce the X150 is the first model in our new line of X skimmers. The X150, it's a whole new ballgame.
So that was just a brief there on the X150, again, born out of some of the Deepwater Horizon issues that they found with traditional skimmers not doing what they needed to do. Also born then out of the Deepwater Horizon spill was the some of the fire boom testing and the results that were found. And I'll just run through some of the details of that through this presentation here, and then I'll hand over to Paul. So developed and tested actually for more than 20 years. They just never really had a real life situation like the Deepwater Horizon to test them in. You got Svalbard there, 1988, Newfoundland 93, and then in North Sea 1996. So plenty of tests, and also in test tanks that had been done in the past. The small scale tests, they just weren't as intense as what was seen in the Gulf of Mexico. The different types of fire boom, you've got the kind of first generation, your ceramic or your metallic floats, your solid fire booms. And then you have now a second generation, which is the inflatable type, and we'll go on to some detail on that shortly. The models that we used during the Gulf of Mexico, you got the American Marine or the 3M boom there, you got the Hydra fire boom, and then you got the Pyro boom. And then you also had the oil stop and a Kepner version, which we used. So a total of 411 controlled burns were conducted from April 28th to July 19th. So using 5 different types and generations of fire boom, it gave a really good broad coverage of different booms used. It worked out during that particular spill that controlled burning was the cheapest and the best alternative to traditional skimming methods. So the American fire boom, again, solid flotation booms, PVC cover with a skirt, and then you've got the stainless steel mesh twin inside with a high temperature resistant flotation core. Then you've also got the ceramic textile in between the steel mesh, and then a ballast chain to make sure the profile on the water stays right. Once this is used, obviously the PVC cover does get destroyed in the temperature, but then once you've got that back on board the ship, you can replace that by taking off those stainless steel retention bars and recovering it. Then you have the oil stop, again, a solid flotation ceramic boom. You also have the Pyro boom, which is more of your ceramic steel foam covered Pyro boom. Then you've got the second generation Hydra fire boom. So water cooled, it's inflatable, and you might think, well, inflatable boom with fire doesn't actually go, but when it's got the water jacket going around it, it gives the fire resistance across its entire length. and you can deploy it and recover it without using the use of cranes. As long as you've got your onboard boom reels, you can deploy and recover it, and then you can recover it again if the weather deteriorates. So you've got the water saturated cover, the air chambers below it, and then pumping through the bottom with manifolds going up to the blanket. You've got your water, which coats the blankets, your feed lines. Containerized system, again, making it easy to ship globally. And in this particular situation, so the Gulf of Mexico, the on-site management team consists of the O'Brien's Group, Elastec, and the US Coast Guard. So a total of 240 people, 49 vessels, 15 burn teams, and 3 task forces. So again, storage on board has to be considered when you're using these systems. This particular photo here, you can see about 300 meters of the hydro fire boom on the boom reels, 150 meters of the pyro boom, that's on the right hand side there, and then 300 meters of the American fire boom, that's the orange on the left. So to start the fires, there's a couple of options. There's also, as more recently, there's a drone version, which NOFO were utilizing and testing with not too long ago. You've got a heli torch option, which is probably not the most preferred version because it can be sometimes difficult to light it. If the conditions allow, then just floating ignition devices from a boat as close as you can get to the oil. So kind of representative burn rates gives you some of the ideas there of what can be expected by utilizing fire booms. During the first trial burn, so it was about an hour in length, they managed to actually get the burning plans and the approvals and procedures in place to be able to utilize the fire booms during the spill in the Gulf. So multiple burn teams were created. That meant that they could go out in shifts in different areas wherever the oil was, utilizing different booms that were available to them. And then one particular day they had the Mega Burns Day, which was June the 18th, and they managed to dispose of an estimated 70,000 barrels of oil. So that was a good result for cleanup day. Throughout the spill, all the emissions, they were monitored by the Environment Agency, and details were noted. So aerial surveillance during this was absolutely critical to make sure that the boats were in the right position. They could keep an eye on things and then monitor the fires and the oil as the spill went through. We also found that the fire was jumping from, towing from the boom. You had a nice pocket of oil which you can then have on fire. Depending on how the oil moved, if it got away from the boom apex, it would come out behind it and also catch some other oil parts on light. So the hydro fire boom in particular that had the longest recorded burn of 11 hours and 48 minutes, and then also 10 hours and 20 minutes, and that apparently set a Guinness World Record. I didn't realize there was a world record for fire boom. So it just goes to show that in the right conditions, you can actually burn quite a lot of oil. So the actual burned oil and skimmed oil seems actually a very small amount compared to what was actually spilled. So only 5% of the spilled oil was burnt, but then also only 3% of the skimmed oil was burnt. But the amount of time and effort required for skimming that oil was massive compared to burning the oil. So again, I'll just run through a video here and then I'm almost done. I'll just finish off with a couple of conclusion slides and then I'll hand over to Paul. Is that right, Mark?
In April 2010, the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico where 11 lives were lost. The blowout resulted in a catastrophic oil spill of almost 5 million barrels covering approximately 30,000 square miles of the Gulf. and led to an unprecedented oil spill response, the most challenging and complex the United States has ever mobilized. Due to the massive amount of oil being spewed into the Gulf, 3 aggressive oil recovery methods were authorized: mechanical skimming, dispersive application, and controlled burns. Controlled in situ burning, or ISB, proved to have an impressive success rate. Over the course of the spill, 411 controlled burns were conducted, destroying over 300,000 barrels of oil. During these operations, there were 5 brands of fire booms deployed. Among them were 2 Elastec systems, a Hydro fire boom, and the American fire boom. The Elastec Hydro fire boom was the most successful system used in the ISB.
Kevin, we're actually losing any sound. So I don't know whether you can change that or whether it's just your internet connection.
You lost sound, sorry, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you just want to, I mean, I think we've got the general idea.
Yeah, okay. Let me just see if I can
Click to your next slide.
click to the next slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, the videos are available all online as well. You can go and obviously and see those as well on the YouTube channel. So if I just pull through to the next slide, I've just got a couple of conclusion slides, and then I'll hand over. If I can get that. Okay, so yeah, largest number of controlled burns in any spill history. They did go under the most extensive evaluation ever. No boom withstood the fires indefinitely. There's always going to be situations where you're never going to be able to get around that. It's definitely a proven response option, and requires less logistics than actually skimming in the right situations, as long as you've got the right conditions as well. So yeah, when the conditions are right, burning can remove lots of oil from the spill site. Again, emission monitoring is necessary. Burning can deal with any trash or debris that's also in there. So any wood that's in debris in the oil spill, or any debris that's there can be burnt up as well. Also saving on post recovery. The Hydro fire boom systems did collect the most oil and responsible for the highest volume burn per system. Of course, the other fire boom options that are out there were also effective. Just happened to be that we've got the more results available to us. So fire booms definitely a tool for the toolbox when it comes to oil spills, given the right situation, the right conditions. So again, any questions, just pass them through to Mark, and we'll try and answer them at the end of the presentation. So I'll hand over now back to Mark. So thank you, everyone.
Over to you, Paul, I think.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mark, for the invite. Hopefully you can see the presentation okay. What I've been asked to talk about today is side sweep systems, so a much more traditional and conventional method of recovering, so containment and recovery of oil, predominantly at sea. So in the presentation, very quick introduction to Vicoma, discussion around sweeping systems, integrated systems, which have combined skimming recovery, types of side sweeps, attachments of vessels, sweep and recover, sweeping systems that are integrated, so built into the skimmers, rigid sweeping arms, a little bit of touching on enhanced sweep skimming, which is the method that EMSA employs, and then along those lines, talking about gate booms, and then really summarizing with things to consider. And I promise no videos, so you just have to listen to my dulcet tones. So Vicoma International, one of the real world-leading companies within the industry, established in 1967 after the Torrey Canyon spill. So based on the Isle of Wight, where we have a complete design and manufacture facility. and we supply equipment all around the world. So my name's Paul Rayner, I'm the sales director. As of next year, 30 years experience at Vicoma, really working predominantly in sales, but also other areas. So quite extensive knowledge of the international market. Vicoma is an ISO 9001 company. In fact, we're having our Lloyd's audit today, which was quite a challenging combined on-site and hybrid virtual audit, which I believe is going well. And that covers all of the sales, design, development, and manufacture of our equipment. 3 key values of Vicoma: innovation, quality, and reliability. So quality, really key. You actually need equipment that's going to work. Reliability, you don't have a spill every day, so it needs to work when you need it. And innovation, really important, listening to end users, listening to responders of how to make things better, how to make things safer, how to make things more efficient and easier. So when Mark asked me to look at sweeping systems, I thought, okay, we're going to talk about side sweep systems, but there are also actually a number of traditional sweeping systems, from sort of U and J configuration, even a 3 configuration, which in all my time I've never seen, and I think would be the most difficult thing to control in the world. Also V configurations, and then what are traditional side sweeps? So usually using a sweeping arm and a boom deployment over the side. So there's been options with sweeps on both sides of the vessel and single sweep systems as well from one side of the vessel. So traditionally this uses a sweeping arm attached to the vessel, a boom which is deployed around that, and then a recovery system which is either built into the boom system or deployed into the boom apex. The idea being to deploy the vessel into the spill and allow the spill to come into the apex of the boom and then be recovered. So typically this is between sort of 1, there's been talk of up to 3 knots. I'm really not convinced on the sort of logistics of trying to control something at that speed and not lose a significant amount of oil behind the boom due to entrainment. So really important to have a really highly trained crew when you're doing this, and for people who really know what they're doing. And there are integrated systems with side sweeps. So this is where the skimming system is built actually into the vessel. So here you can see a relatively small vessel with 2 lightweight sweeping arms, and the skimming systems, which are brush skimmers, are built into the hull of the vessel. So the vessel steams into the spill, the oil is deflected either side of the bow into the recovery deflector booms and then into the skimmer system itself. You can see another version there where a very lightweight sweep system with a boom deployed, which allows you to then put a skimmer inside. So the most traditional system is to have this combined sweep and skim recovery. So this would be where you deploy your sweeping system with your boom, you start to collect the oil, and then you recover with a skimmer. And really the speed of this really dictates how much oil you're collecting and the thickness of that oil in the apex of the boom, and how effectively you can deploy the skimmer into that apex. So they're quite large, and there are quite large and also quite simple sweeping arms, and it really depends on the size of the vessel, the application, so the area you're skimming, and the speed that you want to operate at. So here you can see a Vicoma lattice sweeping arm. So this is an 8-meter sweeping arm with a 1.2 meter height boom behind it. So this is really quite a large system and would be deployed on a rather large vessel. You can also see very simple lightweight skimming systems. So if you're going to be deploying sweeping systems in a harbour, a much more lightweight system where you don't have to have such a robust sweeping arm and can deploy the boom and skimmer, as you can see in this picture. So simple and lightweight really does work if you've got smaller vessels and if you're in sheltered waters, so ports, harbours, sheltered coastline. So this allows you to have a lightweight, usually aluminium tubular design sweeping arm, which is attached to the side of the vessel. And we'll touch on this attachment in a moment because it's really quite key to how these work. And then you can see the boom there deployed along behind the sweeping arm to collect the oil. When you get up into much larger sweep arms, it's really important to have a good connection system which allows the arm to actually move up and down and from side to side. This is to allow the flexibility of this arm to actually maneuver when you're in on the water, particularly when you're at sea or in offshore applications. So here you can see a quite complex and extremely heavy duty universal joint system to allow that movement. And quite key to understand how you're going to fit this to the vessel. So you can see in this case, this has actually been welded onto the deck of the vessel, so temporarily welded. It's really important to understand what sort of vessel you're going to deploy these from. So whether they are already prepared to take a sweeping arm, so whether they're fitted with the mating half of this universal joint so that you can bolt them on, whether you're going to temporarily weld them on, or whether you're going to use things like gunnel clamps. And these things exist. We've supplied them over the years. Other suppliers also have these. It shouldn't be underestimated the forces that are involved, though, when you're actually sweeping. If you can imagine with a 6, 7, 8 meter sweeping arm with 20, 30 meters of boom in a U behind it, this is acting like a huge sea anchor. So you really do need a very robust anchoring system to join this onto the vessel. So really very key point to understand how you're going to use this and where you're going to use it. It's also interesting to note, though, we actually got involved, Vicama got involved with utilizing sweeps without the need of sweeping arms. So here you can see, for example, our fast flow skimmer. So this is a combined sweep and recovery system. So this can be towed along at 4 knots. The oil is forced into the deflector booms and then forced into the skimming system. And this skimming system is a weir skimming system where the baffles inside the fast flow effectively slow down the surface water and allow for a separation of oil and water. So the oil is collected in the back of the skimmer and then pumped back to the mother vessel. And you can see here that a HIAB is actually being utilized to hold these booms open to act as the sweeping system. So another view there. Should be noted again, the forces that are involved in this. So as soon as you get up deploying at 1 knot, 2 knots plus, there's huge forces involved. So whether you're actually advancing into a spill or whether the spill is advancing into you and you're acting in a stationary manner, huge forces involved. So you'll see in this sweeping system, these retaining wires that are inside these deflector booms to stop them being basically ripped apart. This system here is actually, as I say, recovering oil in this skimmer at the back, and this will do 30 to 40 tons an hour, and its bigger brother will do 60 to 70 plus tons an hour. We also have some really quite elaborate sweeping systems. So Vicama is well known for a product called Weir Boom. So this was a combined boom and skimming system where the skimmers are actually built into the boom. So we developed a product called Cusp Weir Boom, which is a much smaller version where the skimmers are actually built into this cusp area. So this would be the apex of the sweeping system. The deflector booms are here to force the oil into this apex and then allow it to be recovered. So the oil is forced into the boom. The boom has openings into the back of the boom where there are pumps to pump that recovered oil away. So you can see here a sweeping arm being deployed. So again, a large aluminium lattice structure with a float on the end. Really important. You can imagine the weight of these things until they're supported. The boom deployed here and the skimmers are actually built into the back of the boom. So this allows the oil to be recovered as you're advancing and pumped back onto the mother vessel or pumped onto temporary storage behind the mother vessel. So you can see again the picture there. So this is the cusp part, the deflector booms, and then the sweeping arm. And you can see on this vessel, they actually had already mounted permanently on the side of the vessel the mating half of the sweeping arm. So this meant it was ready to be attached very quickly. You can imagine if you wanted to find a vessel and then start drilling holes in it or start welding on it, you've really got to have some thought and some plan to how you're going to utilize this type of system. We also have products like the Vica Skim. So this is again a built-in skimmer, so a weir skimmer built into a boom section that allows the oil to flow into the weir opening and be pumped away at the back here with this collection hopper and the built-in pump. So this again allows you not only to collect the oil with the sweeping system, but to recover it at the same time. There are also some really quite substantial sweeping systems, side sweeping systems. So one of these products is Vicasec. So this was a collaboration between Vicoma and Cosec in the Netherlands. This is one of their systems that's built into a very large Coast Guard vessel. And you can see the two sweep arms deployed from the side of the vessel, and built into those sweep arms is our weir skimmers. And you can also have brush skimmers built into them. So these were particularly successful in very open sea areas and with large spills. And one of the advantages you've got here is you've actually got a vessel with a lot of onboard storage that can actually deal with this. So many of these types of vessels are actually built with oil and water separators built into the vessels, which allows the oil and water mix that's recovered to be treated, the oil to be put into temporary storage, and the water to be deployed back into the sea. We also, with Cosec, they have a compact system. So this was everything basically on a skid. So everything can be deployed from that skid with a built-in crane, a smaller rigid sweeping arm, which basically floats along the side of the vessel and sits up against the vessel. So this means you don't need to do any modifications to the vessel. You just need to lock down this skeletal frame with this isoblocks, and then the sweeping arm can be deployed over the side. If you look at EMSA is a good example where they use this type of sweeping arm technology with rigid arms, and they use a system which is often referred to as enhanced sweeping. So this is where you deploy a more conventional sweep using vessels ahead of the skimming vessel and force the oil into that pocket, and then basically force the oil out of this pocket into the skimming vessel. So this consolidates, condenses the oil, if you like, and forces it into the skimmer vessel behind. So you can see an operation there, the two towing boats, a large enhanced sweeping system, the gate there opened, and the oil recovery vessel coming behind it. So the idea being this oil is forced into here and then into this skimming vessel. So this is really one of EMSA's key offshore recovery techniques. With a gate boom, it's interesting to note you're actually trying to lose oil, so quite unconventional with a boom. This is where the oil's forced in, but then is consolidated into that apex and then forced out through openings within the boom, so it can be recovered behind the boom. So this allows the oil to be a large collection area as you sweep, which is really quite key. You can imagine if you were using a side sweep that's 5 meters, you're sweeping a swathe width of 5 meters. If you're deploying a boom system first, you could be having a swathe width, a sweep width of several hundred meters. So you can imagine the amount of oil you can collect and force down into this gate boom, which then allows the oil to come out the back and into the skimmer recovery vessels. So you can see there one version of a gate boom which was developed for Vicoma High Sprint. So actually an opening within the boom system, and this could typically be 4 to 600 meters of boom making up this sweeping system. So I thought we'd end up though with things to consider, because there's actually a lot of key things that you need to consider. The type of sweep you're going to use, the size of the sweeping boom, the type of vessel. Is it going to be dedicated or is it a vessel of opportunity? If it's dedicated, are you already going to have the mating part of the sweeping arm fitted on there so that you can just bolt it in or clip it on and deploy quickly? If it's a vessel of opportunity, how will you attach the sweeping arm? If it's a vessel of opportunity with a HIAB or a crane, could you utilize that for the sweeping system? Very important to understand the logistics, this attachment point, temporary or permanent. Have you got cranes on the vessel to be able to lift the sweeping arm over? Are you going to be able to fix the sweeping arm at land side, at the port or the jetty, and then steam out to the spill? you're not going to want to be dragging your boom in the water as you're steaming out to a spill, because it's going to significantly reduce the speed that you can get there. Very important to understand the sweep speed. So I remember seeing a customer, and they were talking about how they had a wonderful Excel sheet that measured all of the skimming capability of their fleet for sweeping, and if they went at 1 knot or 2 knots or 3 knots. And of course, as soon as you get up to those speeds, it's really quite challenging and potentially dangerous to be trying to operate with these huge, in effect, sea anchors over the side of vessels. So it's really important to have your plan to train your crews. How are you going to do this? How are you going to use it? And then one of the knowledge webinars the other day was about temporary storage. If you're going to recover this oil, where are you going to put it? There were some quite small vessels that I showed earlier in my presentation with sweeping systems. Very small onboard storage, maybe 1 or 2 cubic meters, would be filled up in minutes. So temporary storage or large temporary storage is really key to these sweeping systems, and how you marry them together, the right quantity of temporary storage for the amount of sweeping you're going to do. And then, as always with all oil spill equipment, this training, exercising is really key. The correct people, well trained, a good plan so you know how you're going to follow, what you're going to do, who's going to do what. It's amazing the amount of time in a spill that's wasted while this is all worked out, and where the spills ended up by the time you've got there. And then really important, time. How long is it going to take you to get to the spill site? How long are you going to look for sweeping for? What's the potential recovery capability, and where are you going to put that oil? So a bit of a quick run through of side sweeping systems. We've talked about different types, enhanced skimming. We've talked about types of sweeping system with built-in skimmers so that you can recover at the same time. And then really importantly, things to consider. What do you need to think about before you use these systems? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's great. Mark, I think you're on.
I am, yes. Okay, right. Let me see if this all works, because we did have a little issue earlier, but hopefully we should be, should be okay. There we go.
Practice makes perfect. Well done.
That's it. Exactly. Right. Well, it's all a little bit unexpected, because Thursday last week, Mark contacted me. He said, could you do a presentation, please, on a brief overview on beach cleaning and coastal cleaning equipment? Ah, right. Okay. So I put a few things aside and think, okay, let's basically do it in that respect. I mean, a beach or a shoreline, obviously a lot of things come into mind, really, dealing with a particular spill that comes on the shoreline, and what kit do you use and what comes out of the toolbox. I mean, the thing that you have to deal with, obviously, to think of, what are we dealing with? Basically, what type of pollution? Is it that's coming at sea? Is it a pipeline? Is it a vessel, an old wreck? Or is it just washed up oil drums as such? So all the time you'll have different types of tools that you actually would require. Obviously, if it's on a beach spill, is it freshwater? Is it a river? Is it a lake? If it's a beach on sand, rocky, frozen, jungle, mangroves. So these are really all points, and I think it's quite critical, really, from my nearly 20 years of experience, actually over 20 years of experience, to think back, hey, wait a minute, we've got a spill on the beach. How do we cope with it? And what do we do to our disposal to actually use to combat the particular spill? Is a source of power. I mean, it can happen quite often that you have a spill and a lovely rocky outcrop, and crude oil hits the rocky outcrop. Where does the power come from? And have we actually got a generator? I've got actually a pump. I've got a power pack. And obviously the routes to waste disposal. I mean, Paul sort of touched on that as well, on the tanks in that respect that are being used on a particular spill. Question is, okay, is it easy accessible again? If it's out and remote in the jungle, or if it's out and remote on a rocky outshore, can vehicles come there? Is it feasible to have a floating storage tank, or is it feasible to actually have an IBC put on the beach? And again, all these points is basically, you have to know, and to build up a picture, really, what tools and correct equipment can be used in a particular spill. I've taken the example of a sand beach spill equipment and some recommendations in that respect. I mean, what is commonly used is actually a beach boom that can be connected to a nearshore boom. And the beach boom obviously is inflatable. Normally it's manufactured in PU or neoprene. Lamor is one of the companies that offers a beach boom in PU, and actually has an extra protection as actually on the bottom of the boom layer. So if it's dragged over rocky outers, it actually protects the boom a little bit in that respect. Boom obviously can be used in a saltwater application, in a freshwater application of beaches, and obviously care should be used on mud banks, on gravel or small rocks. It's always recommended to put boom sheeting, obviously, if it's not available, on the bottom of the boom. So therefore, if you do drag it, then obviously the water that's in the bottom of the boom, which you can see in the picture on the left, will remain in the boom and actually will not seep out as such. Another thing you could use on a beach, again, this comes back to my first slide, what tools to use? Absorbents. Yes, you can use them on small beaches. Marine absorbent booms, obviously they will actually contain the further flow, and pads, rolls, basically can be used to absorb small hydrocarbon puddles, for example, on the beach. Or when you can see on the left picture as well, there's an area of the rocks is actually boomed off, while the operator is actually making an attempt of cleaning the heavy fuel stroke crude oil that's actually shown in this particular picture that I found on the internet. I have to admit, I do not know who's on the picture. It has been mentioned, obviously, well, a number of spills, but if you have not got absorbents, if you haven't got a beach boom, then there are also very alternative, primitive options available. The likes of straw bales, or even human or animal hair is actually netted into a boom scenario, and that will actually take up hair, and will actually take up, oil if you, have got hair in that respect, Peter. So it is, an option that is there as a cheap, well, primitive option, should we say. I mean, obviously dealing with a spill on the rocks. I mean, again, this subject is such a vast area. This is just a brief summary, but obviously for large spills, rocky environments, it's highly, well, advisable to use high pressure water, cold water if needed. Oil dispersants can be sprayed on the surfaces to assist. Nature will also help with the dissolved hydrocarbons. After spray has been used, it can be mopped up. The little remaining puddles can actually on the rocks can be used with with absorbents and rags and such like. As you can see on the right-hand picture, people in action cleaning the little bits of rock that the people on the left missed with the spraying systems as such. Other equipment that you might want to consider on the shoreline are actually small skimmers. And Lamor make a number of skimmers for particularly this application. All the Lamor skimmers actually work together, and it would be, for the type, if you buy a system, they show on the left, you'll have the power pack, you have the pump, you have the power source, and it's a one-stop shop type of thing. You do not need other bits and parts to actually make it all work. Ironically, as well, you see on the left-hand picture a Lamor Minimax 12 skimmer with brushes. People say brushes cannot really used on oil. Lamor came out with the invention of brushes to be used on oil in the mid-70s. And since then, it's actually been worldwide renowned to be used on oily applications. A brush will take up light oil. It will also take up heavy fuel oil. So you have the option of the two in that respect. A little picture shows here, again, a little diagram on the beach. You got a Minimax 12 skimmer, the hydraulic power pack, and obviously a Lamor tank. Obviously, there are fast tanks available. There are also IBCs available, or other forms of storage that actually the recovered oil can go into. Dealing with beach spills, and there might be a power issue. There's not a problem. Lamor have actually overcome that, and they have got some very small power packs, the LLP 3.5 HA, which you see on the left. It's actually two-man lift, and it will actually give it efficient power to actually power a small skimmer as such. And on the other hand, you got on the right-hand picture an LLP 6 stroke 7, power pack combination pump. And again, that is another option that is available that will also be used for other skimmers from the Lamar range, which I'll come to in a minute. Basically, as I say, the power pack of the Minimax 12, you can see it here, is actually for the near shore applications, and it will work very, very easy. The Minimax 12 has got an interchangeable skimmer option, although you got the brushes that will be actually used for the likes of, well, various oils. You can put a disc bank in there as well. Also, I must add, the Minimax 12 from Lamor has actually got a simple handle on the left shown that actually can lift out the cassette and put an alternative cassette in. As I said before, the LLP6 can be very used with the rock cleaner or with the manta ray skimmer. The Lamor system is obviously built to have that extra toolbox equipment that you can build as for other skimmer options as such like. Minimax 12, I've mentioned it, you might have seen this video before, but nevertheless, for the people who might not have seen it, it's a nice piece of kit. And I have to admit, sorry about the sound, but it is actually used on heavy fuel oil and particularly land spill. But nevertheless, although it's land, but it can also be used on beach. So it has a multi-purpose, but it just gives you an idea, the efficiency of the skimmer as such like. This little baby will take up 12 ton an hour, for example. Coming back to the LLP6, LLP7, or the LLP 3.5 HA power system, Minimax 12 will fit on there, but also Lamor got a rock cleaner. And again, you might have seen this video before. My apologies if you have, but it's for the people who haven't. And basically, it's a little, well, it's a miniature skimmer as such like, and connected to a pump, stroke could even be connected to a vacuum hose. And it's ideal for the likes of heavy fuel oil or crude as such like, or even light oils as such. But you can see it actually takes it up from the pond as such like. It's an ideal, well, piece of kit really to have again in the toolbox as such. And it's quite effective, and specifically for beach cleaning, this would also be a quite effective piece of equipment to use for very small areas. I mean, it's called the rock cleaner, so it has got a bit of a clue in the title there, so you can use it for, i.e. rocks, but nevertheless, you can also use it for sand applications. It will actually, well, it does what it says on the label really. Other skimmers, coming back to the power source, that will actually fit on there, or even on a end of a vacuum tanker. That's actually the manta ray skimmer. Manta ray skimmer is a shallow skimmer for shallow light oils and shallow waters and such like. It will surface on the top. And the beauty of the manta ray skimmer, which you can see on the left-hand side, it actually opens. There are some other similar type of skimmers in the market, but the manta ray will never actually clog up as such with bits of wood, bits of bird, or any other pollution that actually comes on the beach as such like. And this is a miniature video. I hope you can see it. Although it's used on a little brook as a riverbank, but it sits very, very shallow, and basically it's connected to the pump, so it could be the LLP6, LLP7, or a vacuum truck, and it will actually, you know, absorb and actually take out the layer of oil on top of the surface essentially. Other beach equipment, for example, Lamor do a micro vac system. It's a modular skimmer solution and the cleaning of oil spills on land and shorelines. The system is designed to keep the portability in mind, and obviously used for the very difficult areas that could be difficult to reach, as you can see. As such, where do you put the collected oil? I mentioned that earlier. I mean, there are a number of tanks, but also you could actually use on a beach, dig a pit with a liner as a temporary storage. And that could actually be later on collected with a vacuum truck. Or just, you can see on the right-hand side picture, just a standard IBC, use it on that, and it will fill up in no time in that respect. And that can be actually interchanged all the time when the IBC is full. The other beach cleaning equipment, Mark touched on that a little bit, but this is something for the future as well to look into. And the port bin shoreline cleaner. And it's actually still tested by the Norwegian Coast Guard, and it's a new type of well, vacuum system as such, like, and I hope you can see it. It's a two-man operation, and it's designed for land-based spills to take out a lot of the debris that is lying on the beach. So it could be plastic, it could be bits of oil, it could be tar balls, etc. And it's a very simple, effective tool to use on and have in the toolbox as such, like. That is it for now at this moment in time. Thank you very much for your time in that respect.
Thanks, Mark. Well, they are some different products, which are some of those that you may have seen on some of the prior webinars. One product that we haven't seen so far is a relatively new product to us in UK and Ireland Spill Association, which is the Surf Cleaner, quite a novel product, and Peter Cheney is going to introduce that to you. Over to you, Peter.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mark. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully share. Okay, can you see my good presentation?
Yeah, that's on the screen.
Come on. Okay, right. Well, once again, thanks very much for the opportunity to present to everyone today. As Mark said, the Surf Cleaner, whilst it's pretty new for the UK market, it was invented some 15 years ago by a heart surgeon in Sweden. And he discovered that the heart operates like a dynamic adaptive piston pump. So if you go running, your heart beats faster and pumps more blood and oxygen around your body. And he discovered the Surf Cleaner through this dynamic adaptive piston pump and based the whole project on that. Now, the Surf Cleaner, whilst it looks like a weir skimmer, it's actually a hybrid skimmer separator that will remove 100% of floating pollution on the water surface. It will remove microplastics, sludge, debris, oil. It'll even remove down to 1 micron and also separate it. So just to give you an idea, it will remove everything from thick sludge like you can see now, and it will also remove a sheen, and it will also remove up to medium viscosity oils. Now, floating pollution can be anything from large solid objects, bits of wood, gloves, plastic. The smaller version, the one I'm going to present today, will remove up to 7 centimeters, and our much larger version, which I'll present hopefully later on in the year, will remove up to 150 mil size solids. The uniqueness about the Surf Cleaner is it will then separate the pollution inside the machine itself. And many years ago, when the product was first launched, Lamore done testing and noted that the water content within the oil was between 0.1 and 0.5%. Just to explain how the system works, this is a larger version, the animation, but the systems are pretty much the same. So on the bottom of the Surf Cleaner, you have a propeller, which draws down the bellows from the Surf Cleaner, and this allows the oil-water mixture to enter inside the Surf Cleaner. It will then hit off some deflection discs, which slow the velocity of the oil. The natural buoyancy of the oil allows it to float up to the top of the Surf Cleaner, and the water will then just carry on out through the bottom. And then there's a sensor up here on the larger model. In the smaller model, it's on the motor itself. And when the level is reached, this will send a signal to the propeller to go into reverse. And using the dynamic adaptive piston pump, it will use the water as a piston to push the water out either into a tank or a portable tank or into your tanking system. This is an example of the purity of the oil being discharged. You can see here, this is the larger model, but again, there's no water being discharged from a weir skimmer, which is, when I first heard a weir skimmer with such low water content, I didn't believe it. I had to go over and find out about it. So the surf cleaner itself is unique in that there are no hydraulics being used, there's no pneumatics, there's no power pack, it just plugs into the electricity. There's no pump, it uses a propeller to push uses the water as a piston to push the oil out. And there's virtually no noise. All the mechanics are actually under the water, so it's very, very quiet. The biggest model is actually quieter than a text message you would get on your phone. Both machines are across the range. They're all fully automatic. They will adapt to the conditions. For example, if you've got a sunken vessel in a harbour and you don't know when it's going to leak oil, you can actually place the surf cleaner there and that will continually operate. And then when oil is comes up, it will then send a signal to you. So it acts as a detector and also operates right away. So there's no waiting for a crew to arrive to boom off and to get skimmers into the water. The machine will automatically do that. The other great thing about the surf cleaner is it's very low maintenance. There are only two moving parts. That's the motor and the bellows. And again, with the bigger model, if it was working constantly in a refinery, for example, maybe it would take 40 minutes, maybe twice a year is the maintenance. So there's very little downtime and very little requirement for maintenance. But it's the exact same with the smaller model. It just comes apart and can be hosed down just to remove any solids that may be inside. All machines, again, can provide remote reporting, so you can actually tell how much oil you've recovered, how many cycles you've done. Oh. And it's also extremely low power. The smaller model, the SCO 1000, that I'll show you more of in a minute, that uses less than 20 watts of power. So it's less than a light bulb in your home. The other good thing about the SCO 1000, the mobile model, is it can fold up into, go into a 600 mil manway. This is just a setup for use in maybe a remote area. Because the surf cleaner is very light, it weighs less than your luggage going on the plane. We have remote tanking systems ranging from 20 litres up to whatever you desire. So we have, the unit can be operated with a smartphone or with a tablet. And also it can be operated with an inverter from a car battery, 12 volts to 230 or 110. It can operate 230 volts, 110, 24 volt. Because it uses so little power, these are all options that you can have with it. Again, this is just doing testing in our testing facility in Norrköping in Sweden, using a phone. And here we have, this was testing done in Texas by Ultratech International. They're our distributor in the USA. And again, it shows you the temperature of the motor, what speed it's going at, how much it's recovered. And again, these are all figures that can be logged and kept for, analyzing. This is a small video of the tests that were done in Texas. So they poured in 30 US gallons, which I think is about 200 litres of a very thin mineral oil that was dyed. Again, the oil's so thin it's difficult to see, but that's just pure oil. Now, again, they put in some small beads so that you could actually see the draw of the surf cleaner, and you will see a few cycles of recover, then empty, and you'll see it draws the beads from quite a distance away. So again, this will continually operate until there's nothing left, and within a short space of time, you can actually see the water coming through and the oil just going into a thin sheen. So that will continue like that all the time. Now, as I said, the surf cleaner itself will it will have a flow through of about 7 cubic meters, and in that it will separate pure oil 1,000 liters per hour. Now, it may not sound a lot, but that is pure oil. So if you were using a normal weir skimmer, you would have lots of water content, need much more storage space. So 1,000 litres of pure oil with less than 0.5% of water. It can recover and separate less than 1 micron, which is pretty good. It can recover solids up to 70 millimeters. It can operate in depths of 45 centimeters, and it weighs less than 25 kilo. I think it's approximately 23 kilo. The power usage, again, 20 watts, not very much. And we also have ATEX certification for the smaller model too. And that's down to zone 0. I will also be coming over to the UK August, September, maybe October. We'll be doing some testing with Briggs Marine Environmental. So we'll be doing some shows there. If anybody's interested in attending any of the shows, there will be all over the UK. It won't just be in the north of Scotland. So we will be holding road shows. And if you have enough customers that are interested, we'd be happy to try and fit in a testing at your facility. We are also looking for reliable distribution partners in the UK as well. So if that's of interest to your company, please feel free to get in touch, and you can see my email there. And if you have any questions, then get on to Mark, and Mark, back over to you.
Thanks very much, Peter. That's great. That's really interesting. Just while you're turning over, I mean, you made the point that is it intrinsically safe? You have ATEX certification for it.
Yep.
But is that in the standard product, or is that a premium product?
That's a premium product.
Okay, fine. All right, that's grand.
So I think
in terms of questions, I don't think we have any questions. I haven't had the questions have been answered as we've gone through. So that leaves me really just to thank our presenters. We've had Kevin Bond from Elastec. We've had Paul Rayner from Vicoma, Mark van der Zwan from Zwanny, and Peter Cheney from Surf Cleaner. I'm really grateful for them putting the presentations together. Mark's was at relatively short notice because I wanted to cover some beach cleaning products, because beach cleaning products are very much in the news at the moment. We're doing our own trials and we're evolving solutions for that. Peter, you had something to mention?
Yeah, I forgot to, firstly, I want to thank Kevin for showing a video with me in it, much slimmer version of me with a boom vein.
That must have been some time ago, Peter. That must have been some time ago. But did you keep the hat?
Yeah, yes, I did. I gave it away to a Cornishman. And I'd also like to let Mark know that I gave all my hair in the interest of boom making and research to show my commitment to the environment.
I haven't got much to shout about there.
I still got some.
Interesting that actually how many people in Mauritius donated hair for the bagasse spoons which were built there. And it is interesting in the Wakashio spill, of the booms deployed, 3 kilometers of booms were conventional booms, but 52 kilometers of booms were homemade bagasse booms using straw, vegetation, plastic to keep them afloat, and hair. And people were actually donating real hair for a real purpose. And whilst they were a nightmare for the responders to dispose of because of the nature of the products, they actually saved a lot of environments from a lot of significant harm through lost product. And they managed to hold the product coming from the Wakashio at sea, so they had time to organize the disposal of it ashore. And it made a considerable difference, and has protected the employment of a lot of people out there, because it has been easier to clean it when it was on the water than to clean it when it was on the shore. So it does make a difference. I had a question from Josh Duran. Good afternoon, Josh. With regard to collecting microplastics, how effective is the discharge that you've got in the surf cleaner, Peter?
Just take it off. For example, it would depend on how you programmed the discharge, because it would depend on the volume that you would want to do the discharge at. So, for example, if you had 100, I don't know, ping pong balls, they float on the top of the water. So you have the water acting as a piston. So you would program it that as the water pushes the ping pong balls out, it changes the buoyancy of the surf cleaner. And when it detects whatever level you set, it will then only discharge the ping pong balls and not the water. So if there was a lot of microplastics, you could program that to just only discharge the microplastic.
Interesting. Josh is part of our works for a company called Oracle Environmental.
All right,
they've been working with some of the other responders and manufacturers in the UK in our plastic pollution working group. And we've been trialing various products, and we've sort of beginning to focus down on the number of products that we're going to use when our members have plastic pollution or marine debris response. And obviously, when it's on the sand, or when it's on the land, if you like, it could be the rocks, the mud, the whatever. But actually, we have solutions. But the issue is when it is on the surf line or just on the water. And so we've been using Vicoma, have kindly lent us their mini vac system with a skimmer like a Delta skimmer, which has proved very, very effective in very shallow water collecting product, and it's worked very, very well. And obviously Mark has presented his own version of the same sort of thing, but because everyone has similar products, and Kevin will pipe up in a minute and say, "Oh, don't forget to mention mine," so I mentioned that they have one too.
One of the other things one thing I forgot to mention
up later, but basically, the issue is sometimes you've got it on the shore, okay, so you can recover it, but what do you do with that? And where yours is particularly useful is where your product, the surf cleaner, if it can recover plastics, is you could use something which will keep it offshore such that it's starting, and you could control it and move it around to collect product which is just sitting, particularly where you don't really want to stick a guy in waders up to his chest and start recovering it. And that's
the other thing I forgot to mention, Mark, is that the unit will also remove and separate algae, which can be a bit of a problem around power stations and things like that. So it will remove that and separate it. So Again, if it floats, the surf cleaner will deal with it.
Oh, I could do with one of those in my pond, but never mind, that's another issue. But anyway, particularly if it will do blanket weed. So anyway,
Well, we could do
anyway,
some
those
testing
are-
when I'm over.
Yeah, so it is actually quite interesting. What is great is that there's a lot of innovation which is coming out of the manufacturers, and there's a lot of people who are all of the manufacturers here have been very open to us with the information that they've got, particularly, and they're tailoring their products as fuel, as the nature of the products that we're being asked to recover as responders is changing. And I think that's really great. What I also, it's going to be very interesting as we move perhaps from heavier fuels with a lot of viscosity to much lighter fuels which are more portable, and to see how products from manufacturers change. And it's interesting to see Andy Nicol he's written a very interesting article which is on the OSRL website about very low sulfur fuel oil. And we've also, as UK and Ireland Spill Association, been doing some work, and our accreditation and our accreditation arm, which is ISAS, International Spill Accreditation Scheme, they have been doing a lot of work on spill response to biofuels, because the nature of the fuel is changing, and we need to have tools and equipments and processes and procedures which enable their safe recovery. So Andy Nicol's article is quite good, is a really good summary, not very long, but it's a very, very good summary of how you can, of some things to think about now that we're moving, the maritime world is moving to very low sulfur fuel oil. And no doubt, as we move into other fuel types, ammonia perhaps, and hydrogen, and they will all pose different problems which we, as a community of manufacturers and responders, have to solve. Well, that's enough for me. Thank you very much again to our presenters. Thank you for those who've joined us today. We've been recording this, so we will then, over the next couple of days, edit it and take out all my waffle, and we will then stick it up on our website so you can go and view, or perhaps share with others who might be interested in this topic. So thank you very much indeed for all of you for joining, and thank you very much. And I hope that this has been a useful webinar. Our next webinars are going to be on the 16th of July, modeling and data gathering in marine spills. And we'll also be doing another the Wakashio summary really of the lessons to be learned, which will be on the 30th of June. So I'd like to thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.